Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel. In this short video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous night of the local time. First we're going to start with Donetsk direction, to be more precise with Krasnogorovka area, Marinka-Krasnogorovka area, but before we start I would like to share with you my opinion. The Russians are using very interesting tactics. They are not attacking the Ukrainians as the Ukrainians attack the Russians on Robotyno-Verbovo area. The Russians try to attack with a very small attacks, trying to get just a small piece of Ukrainian pie. So they're trying to cut Ukrainian defense in many small pieces and to take every single piece step by step. There is no attempts, there is no need to rush, there is no need to use significant number of forces just to cut the Ukrainian defense for many hundreds of small pieces of pie, of cake, and to take everyone step by step. For example, since the beginning of the Russian offensive operation, we saw at least few directions of attacks. From the 10th of October till, let's say, 20th of October, the Russians were very active on Krasnogorovka direction, on this area. And as a result of that attack, the Russians managed to get the railways that located between Avdiivka and the city by the name of Ocheretina. And that was the first piece of pie, piece of cakes that the Russians managed to capture. On the southern direction, the Russians also managed to advance, and as a result of that attack, they established control over a few lines and teared over a few fortifications and the strongholds in the area of Tsarskaya Okhota defense belt, and that was another piece of pie that the Russians managed to cut and take under control. Another area the Russians attacked was Vadiana and in direction of Tonenькaya Severna, and as a result of that attack, the Russians also managed to establish control over a few important tree lines. And after that we see a small pause in this area. The next direction that the Russians used for attack was the Novomikhailivka area, and as a result of first days of clashes, the Russians managed to establish control over the southern fortification. They haven't established control over hundreds of square kilometers, just few more 100 meters towards Ukrainian positions. For example, yesterday we discussed that as a result of clashes on the northern part direction, the Russians also managed to advance and to develop some positions. Currently we don't know the exact progress, but the geolocations from this area tell us that maybe the Russians have already established control over Zverina's fortification and the supply road that goes from Novomikhailivka in that area. So also they're not very fast, they're not trying to capture during one night the entire village, step by step, very slowly. And today, for example, we got more details and more updates from the area between Krasnogorovka and Marinka. The Russian sources published a very interesting video of another Russian attack in direction of the tree lines. For that attack, the Russians used significant number of armored vehicles and infantry. On this video, we can see how the Russian tanks were moving from Marinka to the north in direction of the coal mine along the tree lines, in direction of coal mine and further in direction of Krasnogorovka. As a result of that attack, the Russians managed to penetrate the Ukrainian defense belt and to capture a lot of territories. Let's forward video a little bit further to the further. We see Russian tanks moving from one part of the field to another. We see strikes with the tank attacks. The Russians during the movement tried to suppress the Ukrainian positions along the tree lines. The Russians know for sure where exactly the Ukrainian positions were located, and they were trying to suppress them and not to allow the Ukrainians to use anti-tank missiles. If we take a look at the horizon, we're gonna see also a lot of smoke. The Russians were also bombing the Ukrainian forces in Krasnogorovka. Probably there are not many supply roads so that Ukrainians can use, and every single supply road probably was under fire control during that Russian attack. As you can see, the Russians are moving and the Ukrainians can't do nothing, can't do anything with this. There is no even artillery strikes, there is no even counter tank attacks and so on. So we see one tanks and two personal carriers behind, and they're moving very far from the main position of Russian forces, and as a result of that attack, the Russians managed to establish control over more Ukrainian fortifications and trenches in this area. This is a very important update, and if we take a look at the map and this area, I believe it's better to use, let's say, tank icon for better understanding. So the Russians, according to that video, started their movement somewhere in this area, and they were moving to the north, and they were attacking the Ukrainian positions in this area, and as a result of that Russian attack, they managed to penetrate the Ukrainians' defense belt and to force them to step back, or maybe the Ukrainians didn't step back, but in this case the Ukrainians were destroyed and the territory was captured. So basically we can say that as a result of that attack, the Russians managed to establish control over these trenches, over these territories, and currently this area is under complete Russian control. So for now we are not going to change the color of this territory because we need to wait some time. Obviously the Ukrainians will launch a counter-offensive operation, but another important thing that we need to mention and we need to take a look is that if we increase the number of updates since the beginning of October, we're going to see the the configuration of this battle, and we see that basically on the geolocations we received, currently the Russians have three priority direction of their offensive operation. The first one it goes from along the Marinka, along the northern part of Marinka. As you can see, according to geolocations, there are significant number of bombings, FPV drone strikes, artillery strikes. The Russians are trying to clear this territory to suppress the Ukrainian positions, and we expect another wave of attack of Russian forces in this direction as well. The second direction of Russian focus is the area between Marinka and Krasnogorovka, and as you can see, as a result of previous day attack, the Russians managed to establish control over this territory, and we have like a geolocated video confirmation of that progress. And the second area of Russian focus is the area between these two territories, yet we haven't received any geolocations deep inside of this direction, but we see some geolocations from the edge. So one more time, if we currently will try to add some gray cloud, we're gonna see that the first things that the Russians managed to achieve as a result of the previous day attack is probably to establish control over this territory. And by that attack, the Russians managed to improve their positions and to maintain their combat line, to increase their the square meters under control, and to prepare. And currently they're able to start preparation before further offensive operation in direction of the lakes that located on the northwest, and probably in direction of the south of Krasnogorovka. When talking about southern direction, let's reduce the number of updates. During the previous 24 night we haven't received anything from this area, but based on the geolocations we just saw, the number of geolocations, we understand that the main purpose of the Russians is to get the the main road between Asukovka and Marinskaya Sea lakes, and to try to establish control, something like this. This will allow the Russians first of all to improve their positions on the north of Marinka and below Krasnogorovka and on the east of Georgievka. So this is another piece of pie, piece of cake that the Russians managed to cut and to establish control over. And the main thing, the main purpose is to repeat every single attack one by one. So one more time. First, the Russians have already attacked the Ukrainian positions in Krasnogorovka, Tsarskaya Okhota, Piesky, Vadiana, Novomikhailivka from the south, Novomikhailivka from the north, Krasnogorovka, Marinka. And now the Russians can start one more time from the beginning. One more time. Avdiivka to cross the railways in the north of chemical plant Stepovo Berdichi, southern direction to get closer to a Khimik settlement and Tsarskaya Okhota fortification, southwest closer to get closer to Tonenka Stepova, Novomikhailivka to probably to enter the village from the south, or to get more another few hundred meters the northern direction to clear completely Zverinets fortification, get more 100 meters, Marinka direction to clear the left, to establish control or to create a gray zone in the left white cloud, and to clear and and capture completely the northern white cloud. And one more time, since from the beginning. So it's like circling many circles, many rounds of the same operation, which force the Ukrainians always to send reserves from one position to another. This is a very interesting tactic that the Russians are trying to implement in this direction. Interesting updates also coming from Zaporozhye area, and today the Russian sources published more details and more geolocated videos of Ukrainian offensive operation in this area. And when talking about Robotyne area, the battle for Bridgehead on the west of Robotyne, the main geolocations were received from the Russian sources because currently the Ukrainians are on the offensive state, so we have a lot of videos of destroyed Ukrainian armored vehicles. The Ukrainians don't like to publish the video with destroyed vehicles of their army, but the Russians do. The same situation in Krasnogorovka from the Russian side. On this video we can see another attempt from the Ukrainian forces to attack. The Ukrainian attack was discovered, tracked, and as a result of that offensive operation that probably took place somewhere from the 25th of October till yesterday, the Ukrainians lost significant number of forces. If you remember, we discussed that as a result of, according to the Ministry of Defense, the Ukrainians lost up to 40 units, 40 pieces of armored vehicles of different types, including Leopards and so on. For example, a second ago, on this video, you can see destroyed Leopard who was burning as a result of fire of FPV drone. Also, we got that video of destroyed Ukrainian Leopard in more details from another angle, from a very close view. On this video, we see how the Russian drone was flying above Leopard and attacked the Leopard behind, and as a result of that attack, that machine was destroyed. But there is another important update. Today the Ukrainians also published at least one video from this direction, and we are not going to watch this video because we're gonna see just the video from another angle. On this video we can see the Russian soldiers who were withdrawing their positions from the tree line between Robotyne and Kopany. So that wasn't just attack from the Ukrainian side that didn't bring them any progress. The Ukrainians managed to develop their positions, and no matter the losses and no matter the number of forces they lost and tanks and Leopards and so on, obviously the Ukrainians, as a result of those bloody clashes and bloody attacks, managed to establish control over this tree line, and currently this is the Ukrainian progress in this area. So they managed to capture something, of course not much in comparison with the Russians, and I'm not sure that the losses they had is equivalent to the progress they achieved, but anyway they managed to at least to secure the western flank at least for a while on the western part of Robotyne. Now we're moving to Kherson direction, and we also got a lot of interesting updates from this area. The Ukrainian sources published the video how they managed to discover the Russian air defense system Strela-10, and we see the Russian squad, Russian personnel who was maintaining the air defense system, and as a result of HIMARS strike, that air defense system was destroyed. So the thing is that why I'm showing this video, of course, first of all, is to show that Ukrainians also have some operations, some progress and so on. But we got another interesting video from the same Kherson direction. As I understand, this video is about that HIMARS system that attacked Russian air defense system. If you remember, yesterday we discussed that according to the Ministry of Defense of Russian Federation, the Russians managed to discover and destroy Ukrainian HIMARS system. And later that evening was published the video, and the author of this video claims that this is exactly the sign of destroyed HIMARS system of Ukrainian forces. So as you can see, the HIMARS system and the strike of HIMARS system are located on the same line. So as I understand, the Ukrainians managed to destroy the Russian air defense system, and later the Russians managed to destroy and discover the Ukrainian HIMARS system. So that was the update regarding Kherson area. And also we have updates of clashes on the islands between Russian and Ukrainian bank of the river. On this video we can see how the Russians managed to discover the Ukrainian position on Veliki Potemkin Island, and as a result of FPV drone strike, the Ukrainian position was damaged, but we don't have the results of that strike. Obviously something happened, but not so special. We haven't received anything special from Kupiansk Liman front lines. There are clashes, and I believe that we will include these updates in the evening summary. And that's it for this short video. Military Summary channel reminds you, we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.